Welcome to Family Drama Stories from Reddit. Real family drama told from the heart. Let's begin. Hello, my name is Eleanor Grace. I was always the quiet one, the dependable daughter, the invisible sister, the strong woman who never needed anything. That's what they told me. But strength doesn't mean silence, and I learned that the day I came home to find my family living in my house, uninvited. They thought I'd accept it like I always had. What they didn't know was I wasn't the same woman anymore. I wasn't supposed to be home that day. I'd taken a half day off work after back-to-back board meetings and a stress migraine that just wouldn't quit. I was dreaming of nothing more than a warm bath and 10 hours of silence. But when I pulled into the driveway, everything stopped. There were toys scattered across my front yard, cheap plastic ones, the kind you'd find at a yard sale. A minivan I didn't recognize sat crooked in my driveway, its side door half open, and boxes were stacked beside my porch like someone was moving in. But no one had asked me. I sat there for a moment trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe I had the wrong address. Maybe I'd blacked out and woke up in someone else's life. But then I saw her, my sister, Marissa, barefoot wearing one of my old sweatshirts, standing on my porch like she belonged there. She waved like we were neighbors, like this was a friendly surprise. "Surprise?" she called, beaming. "We figured this would be easier in person." My stomach dropped. I stepped out of the car slowly. "What are you doing here?" She leaned against the porch railing, utterly relaxed. "Mom said you'd understand, that you'd want to help me get back on my feet. You weren't answering your phone, so we just came." I walked up the steps, every inch of me ice cold. "You broke in." No," she said, laughing. "The door was unlocked." I knew that was a lie. I never left the door unlocked. "The lock was changed," I said. "Oh, yeah," she shrugged. "Dad helped. Said the old one was rusted. You should thank us." I stared at the new deadbolt, shining like a slap in the face. They hadn't just entered, they'd claimed it. "This is my house," I said quietly. "Technically," Marissa said, rolling her eyes. "It's in your name, yes, but it's not like you have a husband or kids. You barely live here. You're always working. The place needs life." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My heart pounded. I stepped inside. My couch, my rugs, my kitchen counters, all overtaken. Sippy cups on the island, diapers in the hallway. My office had been turned into a nursery. There was a smell I couldn't place, like baby powder and entitlement. "You need to leave," I said. Marissa's face twisted. "Seriously? You're going to kick us out? Family?" I didn't reply. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "You're joking," she scoffed. "I'm not." 10 minutes later, my parents arrived. Dad folded his arms across his chest like he was preparing for battle. Mom stood behind him, looking everywhere but at me. Marissa stood in the doorway, smug. "We have a rental agreement," she said. "No, you don't. Dad drew it up. You signed it digitally." "I didn't," I snapped. The police officer pulled up just then. Tall, calm, professional. He asked for ID, so I handed over my license, my name, my address. He asked if I had the deed. I did. I also had security camera footage of the lock being drilled and my sister entering with boxes. He turned to them. "You'll need to leave now, or we'll proceed with charges." Marissa burst into tears. "You said this would work," she wailed at my parents. "You said she wouldn't fight back." Dad clenched his jaw. Mom stepped forward, pleading. "Honey, we're just trying to help your sister. She's going through a rough patch. You're alone. What's the harm?" I looked at her, this woman who gave birth to me and never once asked what I needed. "Because it's mine," I said. "Because I earned it, because I built it, and because I am not a backup plan for everyone else's failure." The officer gave them 10 minutes to collect their things. Marissa sobbed. My father muttered. My mother whispered, "You're breaking this family apart." But I didn't answer. Because I wasn't breaking anything. I was finally refusing to be broken. They left in silence. A few plastic bins, a diaper bag. The kids didn't even cry. Too young to understand, too used to chaos. I stood on the porch while the officer waited by his cruiser, just in case. Marissa passed me carrying a laundry basket and didn't meet my eyes. My mother followed, brushing past me with a final whisper. "You'll regret this." I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just watched them walk out of my life like they had expected the door to stay open forever. The house was still, too still. I leaned back against the wall and let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, like someone had been standing on my chest for years and had finally stepped off. The officer nodded politely before driving away. I went inside, locked the new deadbolt, and sat on the floor in the living room. They had rearranged everything. The couch had been moved to face the opposite wall. The rug I bought from that antique shop in Asheville was stained with juice. There were fingerprints on the glass table, sippy cups in the sink, a crayon drawing taped to the fridge. It was like a parody of domestic life, forced and sloppy. I spent the evening restoring what I could, recentering the furniture, bagging up the forgotten toys, scrubbing surfaces like I was exercising more than just germs. Around midnight, I stopped in the hallway and stared at a small framed picture of me and Marissa from when we were little, both of us in matching holiday dresses, her smile wide and mine tired, even then. I flipped the frame face down and kept walking. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. No one there knew what had unfolded over the weekend. That was the thing about living a quiet life. People rarely noticed your battles, even the brutal ones. My coworkers chatted in the kitchen, oblivious. Sam, my business partner, caught my eye as I passed his office. He gave me that look, the one he always gave when he suspected something was off, but knew better than to ask directly. I didn't stop. But later that day, Sam tapped on my office door. "Vivian Green," he said, holding a file. "We've got an applicant." I didn't answer. She passed the first round, has a decent resume, accounting background. Looks like she's applying for a budget analyst role. I stared at the folder. My throat tightened. He continued, "I thought you might want to know before I move her forward." I finally looked at him. "Don't say anything. Just let it happen." His brow furrowed. "You sure?" "I want to see what she does, without knowing I'm watching." He gave a slow nod and backed out of the room. When he was gone, I opened the file. Vivian Green, bachelor's in finance. Former position at a local firm that went under, a solid enough candidate on paper, but it wasn't her resume that hit me. It was her cover letter, the way she described herself as a solution-driven leader and a natural mentor. The same sister who once told me I'd never succeed, hiding behind computers and books. The same woman who had once laughed at me at Thanksgiving when I said I was working in tech. She didn't know that I was the co-founder of the company reviewing her application. Because when we started Dataloom, Sam and I made a decision. He would be the face, and I would be the architect. No photos, no headlines, no interviews. My name existed on legal documents, not websites. I didn't want applause. I wanted peace. Now Vivian was unknowingly walking into a space I'd built from the ground up. She would enter under the assumption she was above me, and for the first time in my life, I was going to let her. That night, I logged into our internal system and pulled up the applicant tracker. I saw her interview time. I saw the notes from HR. Charismatic, confident, strong communicator. Of course she was. She always had been. That was her armor. What no one saw was how fragile it really was underneath. I closed my laptop and stared out the window. The city lights blinked like little signals in the distance. Somewhere out there, she was probably practicing her answers, thinking she had a shot at a fresh start. And maybe she did, but this time, the rules would be mine. Vivian's first day arrived quietly. I didn't show up to the office. I didn't need to. I designed the system. I could see everything without stepping foot past the glass doors. While she found her desk, introduced herself to the team, and explored the break room, I watched from home, logged into the internal camera system only Sam and I had access to. She looked polished, prepared. Hair pinned up neatly, beige blazer, a firm handshake for every department head she met. I knew that version of her well. It was the same one that breezed through our family reunions, always telling people what new thing she'd conquer next. That Marissa was gone. Now it was Vivian. her professional self, and I watched her charm the receptionist and laugh too loudly by the espresso machine, unaware that the woman who once shared a bathroom with her was watching from the shadows. The days passed. She was good. Not great. She cut corners sometimes, rushed numbers she didn't double-check, but good. Charisma made up for a lot, especially in a corporate environment. But then, during a Wednesday morning review, I caught something. A report, quarterly financials, had been flagged for cross-verification. It had my digital signature in the approval box. Vivian stared at the document longer than she should have up. Her pen hovered above a comment field, then dropped. She tilted her head. I saw it in her eyes. Confusion, familiarity, like a scent you can't place but know you've smelled before. That night, she made her first internal request for system access logs. The next morning, she filed a second request for founding documents. Sam called me that afternoon. "She's digging," he said. "You ready for that?" I didn't answer right away. I was watching her through the hallway cam. She stood by the conference room window, scrolling her tablet like she was looking for an answer she didn't really want to find. "Letter," I said. By Friday, she found it. Her access request triggered a security alert which pinged me. I watched the screen load line by line. Dataloom LLC, founding members, Samuel Ridge, Eleanor Grace, ownership split 50-50, role, chief technical architect. She didn't scream. Vivian never reacted that way. She froze. Her shoulders stiffened. She scrolled down, then back up, then clicked the document again, as if repetition might change what she saw. I imagined her in that moment, probably replaying every word she'd said to me over the years. Probably realizing I'd watched her waltz into my company, sign forms with my systems, sit in meetings under my budget, and I hadn't said a word. The silence wasn't revenge. It was clarity. That evening, I went into the office late, not to see her, she'd already gone home, but because I needed to stand in the space she now inhabited. I walked through her department, trailed my fingers across her desk. Everything was in place. Her labeled pens, her budget binder, her water bottle with a pink motivational quote on the side. "You are capable. You are resilient. You are enough." I smiled. On Monday, I arrived early. I didn't normally do that. My schedule was flexible by design, but I wanted her to see me. Not at a distance, not in theory, but in person. I stepped into the kitchen as she was stirring cream into her coffee. She looked up, startled, and for a second, she didn't say anything. Then, cautiously, "Eleanor?" "Morning," I said, like we hadn't grown up resenting each other's silence. She blinked, still holding the stirrer. "What are you doing here?" "I work here," I said simply. Her face twisted, not with confusion, but realization. "You're the co-founder." I nodded. "You let me apply? Interview? Start?" "Yes." "You didn't say anything. I wanted to see how you'd carry yourself when you thought no one from your past was watching." She didn't respond. Just stared at me, her mouth slightly open. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was embarrassed. She was calculating everything she'd said, everything she'd assumed. "I don't need an apology," I added, "and I'm not here to humiliate you. I just wanted you to see who I became when no one believed I would." She swallowed. "You signed my paychecks, and I always made sure they were on time." She didn't laugh. She didn't cry. She just stood there, stunned. That was enough. I turned to leave, but paused. "There's a new mentorship initiative launching next quarter. Women in Leadership. I think you'd be good for it." She didn't answer, but her silence felt different this time. Less like avoidance, more like understanding. The office felt different after that. Vivian didn't avoid me, but she didn't seek me out either, and I didn't push her. Some truths sit heavy before they settle. I knew that weight well. The ache of realizing someone you underestimated was the very foundation beneath your feet. I didn't want her to apologize. I wanted her to grow. And quietly, steadily, she did. She started showing up earlier, staying later, not to impress anyone, but to understand. She stopped offering surface-level solutions in meetings and started asking deeper questions. Her confidence didn't disappear, but it softened, grounded itself. She no longer acted like she owned the room. Instead, she earned her place in it. Weeks passed. Then came a knock on my door one rainy Sunday evening. It wasn't loud or desperate, just a quiet knock. I opened the blinds and saw her, Vivian, standing on my front step with a baby on her hip and a toddler clutching the hem of her coat. Her hair was damp, her eyes were swollen, her lips trembled as she tried to smile. I cracked the door. "What's wrong?" She didn't meet my eyes. "Dan's gone. Took the car, the savings, everything." I blinked but didn't say a word. "I'm not here to beg," she added quickly. "Just the kids, it's cold. We have nowhere to go tonight. There's a shelter I'm trying to get into tomorrow morning." She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Not fragile, just human. Tired in a way makeup can't cover. And I saw myself, not who I was now, but who I'd been, carrying bags into a friend's garage after sleeping in my car, pretending I wasn't freezing so no one would feel obligated to offer a blanket. "You can use the guest room," I said. "One night." Her eyes widened. "Thank you." "I'm not doing this for you," I said. "I'm doing it so your children have one memory where someone didn't slam the door." She nodded, said nothing more, and followed me inside. I didn't offer small talk or comfort. I gave her clean sheets and showed her where the towels were. I made tea and took mine to my room without asking if she wanted any. That was my line. One night, one gesture, one chance. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. The bed was made, towels folded. On the kitchen counter was a handwritten note. "Thank you. I won't forget this. I'm sorry for everything." I read it 3 times before tucking it into the drawer beside my coffee filters. She didn't text. She didn't email. But at work, she shifted again. She led with humility. She asked younger team members how they were doing and meant it. She stopped talking over people and started shining a light on those who usually sat quiet at the table. Then, one Friday, HR forwarded me a proposal draft. Vivian Green was listed as the author. The initiative? A mentorship program for young women in finance, especially interns from low-income backgrounds. She wanted to allocate part of our corporate responsibility budget toward career workshops, resume training, and confidence-building seminars. At the bottom of the document, typed in a soft, italic font, was a single sentence, "Inspired by Eleanor Grace's quiet leadership." I sat back in my chair and let the words settle in, not for validation, not for credit, but because, for the first time, I felt like I had not just made a difference. I had witnessed one. A week later, I found her in the break room pouring hot water over a tea bag. When she turned and saw me, we both paused. Then she said, "The pen you left in the notebook writes really well." I smiled. It was my favorite. "I've been using it," she said. "I wrote the proposal with it." I saw. She hesitated, then looked down. "I don't think I ever really saw you, Eleanor. Not as a sister. Not as anything." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. "I was always so loud," she continued, voice low. "I thought the noise made me strong, but I think you were stronger. I just never stopped talking long enough to notice." That was her apology. And it was enough. I didn't hug her. She didn't cry. We just stood there, 2 women who had spent a lifetime at odds, finally meeting each other halfway. And somehow, that was more powerful than any forgiveness ever could be. Spring arrived in soft waves, longer sunlight, warmer breezes, the smell of fresh-cut grass drifting through my office window. It was subtle, but everything felt lighter. I found myself smiling more. I spoke up more in meetings, not to prove anything, just because I finally felt like I belonged in my own story. Vivian didn't return to our old dynamic, and neither did I. We didn't try to become close in the way people imagine sisters should be, but there was a steadiness now, a silent understanding between us. I didn't watch her anymore. I trusted her to stand on her own. The mentorship program launched in April. The kickoff event was simple: folding chairs, cheap catering, and a crowd of young women wide-eyed with possibility. Vivian stood in front of them, poised but vulnerable, talking about failure, pressure, and second chances. She told them that success wasn't about perfection or praise, it was about responsibility, about owning your choices, even when they hurt, about building something, even in the dark. She didn't mention my name. She didn't need to. Afterward, she walked over, holding a stack of thank you cards from the interns. They wrote these for the program founders, she said. I leafed through them. Crayon hearts, scribbled quotes. One girl wrote, "Thank you for making me feel smart, not just lucky." I didn't say anything. I just held the card a little longer than the others. A few weeks later, we had our annual company gala. Sam insisted I attend. "You've been hiding long enough," he said, handing me the invitation like it was a ticket to a new life. I wore black, simple, elegant, the kind of dress that made me feel like myself, not someone trying to be seen. When they called Sam and me to the stage, the applause hit like a wave. Years ago, I might have shrunk from it, but that night, I smiled. As I looked out into the crowd, I saw Vivian near the back. She wasn't clapping, she was just watching. Her face soft, her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Respect. Sam spoke first, told the story of our beginnings, 2 laptops, a shared vision, and a mountain of code. Then he handed me the microphone. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I spoke. "I'm not the loud one," I said. "I never have been. I'm not the face of this company, but I've been its backbone. And tonight, I don't stand here for recognition. I stand because I finally understand what it means to be seen without needing to shout." The room went quiet in that kind of way that says people are actually listening. I spent most of my life thinking my value depended on whether people clapped when I entered a room, but now I know better. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is build something and let the silence speak for itself. After the speech, I slipped outside for air. It was cool and quiet. I stood by the garden terrace looking out at the night sky when I heard footsteps behind me. Vivian. She didn't say anything at first. Then she handed me a small envelope. "I wrote something," she said. "It's not much." Inside was a handwritten note. "You didn't just help me grow. You showed me how. I see you, Eleanor, not as a shadow, not as a footnote, but as the light I never looked for, because I assumed it couldn't be you." "Thank you. I'm sorry it took me this long." I folded it gently and put it in my clutch. "You don't have to forgive me," she added, barely above a whisper. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I gave her a genuine smile. "I already did," I said, "the moment I stopped needing you to understand." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood there under the stars. 2 women no longer defined by old roles or old wounds or old stories. Not enemies, not rivals, just survivors of the same house. And finally, free. Sometimes the loudest kind of strength is silence, the kind that doesn't scream, doesn't fight, doesn't beg to be seen. Eleanor's story reminds us that not all battles are public. Some are waged behind closed doors, in the quiet decisions to say no, to set boundaries, to walk away when your worth is questioned. Many of us were raised to believe that keeping the peace meant staying quiet, that family meant sacrifice, even when it hurt. But peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of self-respect. And love isn't unconditional if it comes with manipulation or entitlement. Eleanor didn't seek revenge. She didn't need to humiliate those who hurt her. She simply reclaimed her space, her voice, and her right to be more than the strong one who gets nothing in return. If you've ever felt unseen by the people closest to you, know this: you don't owe anyone your silence. You have the right to protect your peace. Have you ever had to choose peace over family? Leave a comment below. Your story might help someone else find their strength. And if this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and join us for more powerful stories that honor quiet strength. Welcome to Family Drama Stories from Reddit. Real family drama told from the heart. Let's begin. Hello, my name is Eleanor Grace, and if you ask my family, they'd say I was always the strong one, the dependable one, the quiet one. But what they really meant was invisible, useful when needed, silent when it suited them, and dismissed the moment I set a boundary. I thought I could live with that, until one afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and realized my entire life had been stolen, quietly, legally, and by blood. I wasn't supposed to be home that early. I had taken the day off, hoping for some solitude after back-to-back project deadlines. But what greeted me as I turned into the driveway was a strange minivan, the kind with sticky decals of little cartoon families in the rear window. Boxes were stacked haphazardly on my porch, and children's toys littered the front yard like a yard sale gone wrong. For a second, I wondered if I was at the wrong address, but then I saw her, my sister, Marissa, standing on the porch barefoot, holding a glass of sweet tea like she'd lived there her whole life. And in that moment, something inside me broke so cleanly it made no sound. Marissa waved as if nothing was wrong. "Surprise!" she called. "Mom said you wouldn't mind." Mom said? I didn't even answer. I parked, got out slowly, and walked up to the house I bought with